Today I'm going to be unboxing and switching to the Galaxy Z Fold 4. I have my old phone here, the 12 mini, free case and S Pen, and an S10 that I'll be trading in for $1,000 credit. Let's get into it! First thing I want to talk about is pricing. This phone retails at $1,900 because it is the 512GB variant, but what AT&T was doing was if you pre-ordered the phone, you got a free memory upgrade. So 512GB for $1,800 instead of $1,900. And the other promotion they had going on is if you traded in any Galaxy device in any condition, you get $1,000 off. It could literally be the S2 with the shattered screen and you'll still get $1,000 credit towards the Galaxy Z Fold 4 or the Flip 4, which retails at $1,000, making that phone free. So with that promotion, the Fold 4 ends up being $800 instead of $1,900, which is quite the discount. And what AT&T does is they take that $1,000, split it up over 36 months, and credit you every month for 36 months. So what I've done is I've added what's called Next. Basically at 18 months, I could trade this phone in as long as it's still in good condition and get whatever phone I want at that time. So we're paying $22 a month to finance the phone, plus $6 for Next over the next 18 months, which is $504. At the time I'm releasing this video, the $1,000 credit with AT&T is still available. You could technically just buy a broken Galaxy device on eBay to trade in, but I would never do anything like that personally. Cool thing is, the pre-order also included this case that you can use an S Pen with, or swap out that S Pen and use it as a stand. And ultimately that's what I found myself doing, is just using that stand. The pen adds a little bit of bulk to an already bulky phone, and plus you can still use the S Pen when it's not attached to the case, whereas you can't use the stand really, so for a $90 case I want to get full usage out of it. But again, it was free with the pre-order. Now, one thing I was super excited to try out was, of course, multitasking of any sort, just because you have such a large screen here. First thing I tried out with that multitasking was pulled up my camera, pulled up a timer, and was listening to an audiobook at the same time and recorded my workout. Here you see me dying at the end of it, even though it was just a plank. Let's be real here though, one of the main reasons I got this phone was for that larger display, and honestly, it has not disappointed so far. Larger display also means gaming is going to be way easier, and in my case, I'm coming from the 12 mini, so even the front display is a much larger screen than I'm used to. So games like Clash of Clans when you're on the go, or if you want to connect a controller, play an emulator at home, it's all easily doable. Funny enough, I had a whole section here about how AT&T offered a 6-month trial of Stadia for free, and the day I was recording the dialogue for this video, I got an email saying Stadia is being shut down. So I was playing Stadia on here, I was playing Elder Scrolls, it was awesome, I was enjoying it, so RIP Stadia, thanks Google. Hello? Anyways, moving on here. As I mentioned earlier, this device is with AT&T, and for whatever reason 5G is just horrible in my area, so I jumped into my settings hoping to turn 5G off, only to find that there is no option to turn it off. Luckily, I was able to find a Reddit thread that included a workaround, and I just wanted to show you that workaround real quick. So you dial *##4636 #*#. That'll take you into this menu here, and then you can jump into phone information, and then you can select this drop-down menu. Apparently NR is what 5G is, but basically I just selected the same thing minus the NR, and I just don't have as many connection issues around town. So hopefully that helps you out if you have AT&T and you've been struggling on 5G. I definitely don't fault the phone just because I had the same exact issue on my 12 mini, but fortunately with my 12 mini I'm able to just jump into settings and change 5G to LTE no problem. Now let's switch gears real quick and talk about the case that came with this phone. This case is made by Samsung and retails at $90. It comes with a Fold Edition S Pen or stand. The added bonus of attaching the S Pen is it gives you something to grip onto when holding the phone. But, like I mentioned earlier, I swapped out the S Pen for the stand for a few reasons. One, I rarely use the S Pen, it made the phone awkward to hold, and the phone didn't fit in my car's mount with the S Pen attached. Plus, I could still use the S Pen separately from the case, meaning 100% of the case is being utilized as opposed to just one piece or the other. I've also found myself using the stand as a pop socket of sorts. It does come off with a little bit of pressure, so I wouldn't recommend doing this, but realistically it's been helpful when balancing the phone in my hand. So I thought this was kind of cool. I saw this sitting right next to my laptop, It's an old adapter. I think it came with the Note, and so I have that plugged into a little hub here, and I plugged in my keyboard and mouse, and sure enough, the keyboard and the mouse both lit up, and now I have a little desktop station. This is the closest I've had to a desktop laptop experience on a mobile device. I remember there used to be a phone when I worked at AT&T, and it came with a little stand, and you could dock the phone onto it, and it would kind of turn your phone into a laptop. That thing, the phone was like so much, and then the dock itself cost like just as much as the phone. It was insane. But that was in 2011, 2012, so the fact that that could exist back then, that's kind of cool.
Some cool stuff indeed. Now, some other random thoughts I wanted to talk about before I start wrapping the video up. One, I purposely didn't wipe off the screen before every single shot just so I can get a real world example of how fingerprints are on this phone. And if I'm being honest, this phone is extremely fingerprinty. If that's a word, fingerprinty. In terms of battery life, the 12 mini has my standards pretty low here. With that being said, I'm able to get through an entire day on a single charge. This is a high-end phone, so I don't really feel the need to jump into spec specifics. Needless to say, this phone is fast and handles pretty much anything I throw at it, if the software can handle it, that is, and that's probably one of the few cons I've found with this phone, is the phone is still pretty niche, so a lot of apps just aren't set up for use on a foldable phone. So every now and then you'll run into issues like apps just not fitting correctly, or this weird glitchy thing that happens every now and then. None of them being deal breakers though, and a lot of this stuff can be potentially fixed with software updates in the future. The only other thing I consider a con is how heavy this phone is. I'm not sure if the weight is a result of making a foldable phone, or if it's just one of those things where heavy equals premium. All I know is I wish the phone was a little bit lighter. And since there's no real theme or flow to this video, let's talk about the front screen for a second. While I never owned the Fold 3, I did work with AT&T for the second half of its life, and I would show the phone to anyone who would listen, even if they had no intentions of buying it. One of my selling points was you could easily do what you need to do with one hand since the screen was so thin, and if you needed a larger screen, it was still there. The front display is of course a little bit wider on the Fold 4, making it closer to a traditional smartphone, but still easily usable with one hand. In fact, the Fold 4's front screen looks like it's the same exact width as my 12 mini, but taller. And if you find that the screen is still a little too big, you can turn on one-handed mode, which makes the front screen even more manageable. One thing I wasn't expecting is a newfound appreciation for my 12 mini that I've been using over the last 2 years. It feels like an actual phone, and it's nice to be able to reach every part of the screen with one hand. It makes me sad that the mini is no more, but hey, that's a video for another time. Now of course no Fold video would be complete without talking about the crease. Is it noticeable? Yes, if I'm looking at the screen from an angle or it's bright out, you can definitely see it. But it's not always visible, and I forget that it's there a majority of the time. It's not as annoying as say something like a dead pixel, because a dead pixel means malfunction, whereas the crease is just part of the phone, so it's a non-issue. Overall, so far I love this phone. Phones have gone unchanged for quite some time, and I feel like the last comparable shift in the world of wireless were phablets in general. When I first got the OG Note, people would ask what it was all the time. And the Fold is the first phone I've had in a long time that people also ask about. There's something extremely satisfying about folding the phone up when you're done with the task, or of course unfolding it when you want to dive deeper into something. Well, that's going to be it for this video. I appreciate you watching. I'm happy I finally get to experience a foldable for myself, and I'm super excited to see what the future holds for foldable tech in general. Thanks for watching.